Anywho, welcome to C&D Live. Chris Hayes, Dylan Scocchio. In the back you see Los Angeles burning to the ground. Actually, it's not burning to the ground, but that is smoke from all the forest fires. And it was raining ash this morning. The sky was all red and
it looked pretty apocalyptic this morning.
It looked like it was like this red amber glow. It was amazing.
Or something, and then I forgot. Oh yeah, all the fires.
Nibiru, is that you?
Like, what the hell is going on?
Today it's always going to be an open floor. So whatever you guys want to talk about, I encourage you to chime in. But we want to start off with consciousness identity order, which is a term Chris coined.
Yeah, I just came up with this, I think maybe this morning actually.
It's valid.
I just invented it and created it.
Hey, what the hell? Everybody invents every other disorder.
Yeah, we all make everything up anyway. But I think, basically what I was thinking was we each inhabit this consciousness right now, whether, it be asleep, awake, whatever level of it you're on, you inhabit this thing right now. It's kind of like this body you inhabit. But what I'm saying is some of us might have a sense that this consciousness that we're at right now is not the consciousness that we should be at for this period in our lives. So it's like we are trapped in this one, but I know that I'm this one. So it's kind of like how people transgender who switch, it's kind of like saying, well, I know I'm in this male body, but I feel like I am definitely supposed to be female.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us have the same way with consciousness, even though a lot of us may not even realize the fact that consciousness even exists, or that it's a thing or something that needs to be worked on or improved, but they just know that something's off, and I think that's probably what's going on with a lot of us. That's why
all of us,
we gravitate towards things that put us in the consciousness that we feel most comfortable at, whether it be marijuana, alcohol. I would say probably not alcohol, it's probably something else, but that's why we do mushrooms or speed, get on meth for years at a time. It's because that state, that whether it's super quick, whether it's super influenced by things, whether you see tracers or whatever, that's probably what, if it weren't for all of this bullshit that we have to put up with every day, that's probably the normal state of consciousness that you would be at, where you would be on an acid trip every day, except you'd be able to handle it more.
Yeah.
But you would have those same experiences. And so when you're not feeling like that, you feel like you feel closer to that whenever you take these drugs. It's like, a cross-dresser feels closer to normal whenever they put these clothes on. Like, oh, this makes me feel more normal. This is who I'm supposed to be.
And what's interesting is, I've noticed throughout my life, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but there's this overwhelming force that is not really quantifiable. People can come up with an excuse, but there's this overwhelming force in civilization or society that suppresses you from a very young age of being yourself. And so it's like, what, you're a little boy and you're running around with My Little Pony? That's not what little boys do. Or you're a girl and you want to go play football? That's not what girls do. And it's like this really overwhelming categorization and suppression of consciousness and the development of your soul, and that starts in a very young age. So we grow up with this really uneasy feeling, and sometimes you don't even realize it till 30 years later, and you're like, oh my God, that time of my life, well, I had this external factors. People blame their parents, and yeah, their parents are probably part of it. Then they'll blame, oh well, my teachers were mean, and there's always an excuse. And all of it is valid. There's just all these different variables that are suppressing us from our soul energy's natural progression,
and it's
through consciousness.
They try to put you into
and blossoming
with the whole be like Mike thing,
yeah.
Or it's like be Michael Jordan.
Serious. Everybody's wearing his
or
shoes.
Be Deion Sanders. They want you to be these certain people, or be Brad Pitt. You know what I mean? So they can put you into these real specific spots that are definitely anything but be yourself, and definitely don't be your natural self. Let us be the self that we want you to be.
And isn't it amazing how, like, good-looking people in society, people just gravitate to them. That's all they care about. They care about that. Oh, he's good. It doesn't matter. Like, I could be a complete psychopath, or a girl could be a complete psychopath. But because they're good-looking, everybody's willing to look the other way for all the qualities of what they've done in life that's worthwhile. And they just focus on all these materialistic, selfish features. And I just, going back to this consciousness identity disorder.
I was thinking earlier this week too, I was like, our vision is so fucked up nowadays. What our vision betrays us in every way, just about. We need to.
We have eyes, but we see not, exactly. And we have ears, but alas, we hear not.
A few of us would read a few more books, me included, our vision would actually change. What we see would.
And I would offer there's whether you can look at mnemonic programming in with the entertainment, and mnemonic, look that word up for everyone who's not familiar with that. It's M-O-N-I-C, mnemonic, just like demonic. And what they do is, through all the programming, whether it's the media, whether it's through the indoctrination systems that we call schools, then the cultural Marxist universities that they have all their shills working there that further degrade your culture, your heritage, your identity. We don't know who we are because who we are and our family's lineages and all the knowledge, they burn libraries. They burn the Library of Alexandria, the ancient libraries there. They burn books in Nazi Germany. They sweep culture up, and everything that we've grown from. It's like almost like taking a plant out of the soil that it came from and putting it in completely different soil, and then that plant has no idea, doesn't even know what it used to, what it organically developed from, because the soil, it's in a new country now, or whatever. But it's just like this, there's this overwhelming presence that, to me, it doesn't feel human, because it just feels like it's an energy. It doesn't feel like it can be blamed by any one person, but there's this overwhelming presence to keep us from knowing who we are, because if you don't know who you are...
It does seem so subtle but overwhelming at the same time.
Yeah.
That's why it's like you get the sense where you want to tell everyone, and everyone already should know. It seems obvious, but then you try to explain it to someone, and then it seems like nothing.
And a lot of times they're just running the program like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then
ball game's on, guys.
A lot of the times we probably are making things bigger in our mind. However, and sometimes maybe connecting things strangely, but a lot of the times there is that big connection, and overwhelmingly there is a net, a web, an intelligence that
and it's difficult to quantify because we want to be able to quantify stuff in a material form, and sometimes it's kind of like when quantum physics scientists, there's a point where you actually look at all this physical reality, and then it just stops making sense once you get small enough.
It's the churches, but then everyone's like, well, my church is good. How can it be all the churches when I go to church every Sunday and I'm a great person? And it's tough to tell
you got
someone
something for everybody.
That your church is probably doing satanic stuff. How do you break that to someone without sounding like a complete idiot?
And
no one wants to hear that, and no one wants to believe that they've had the wool pulled over their eyes for 60, 70 years, 10 years, 5 years, 30 years.
Thousands of years.
But
it's like they got something for everyone. The system is so old and so pervasive that it's like, if you are into organized religion, we got all kinds of religions. You don't like Jesus, we got Krishna.
Too. It's so like, oh, yeah, I want to do all that stuff. It sounds fun.
But hey, if you don't believe in God, that's okay. We got other we got the UFO community for you. Let's sit back and watch all these, you just wait for the Pleiadians and the Andromedans to save you. They're going to bring the mothership, and they're just working in the outer darkness to undo all this slavery, Just like Jesus is coming to save you, Buddha is coming to save you, Krishna, Muhammad, whatever. there's always this external force to lull you to sleep.
Yeah, and it's always easy.
Oh, you don't like religion? You don't believe in aliens? That's okay. We got money. We got that religion. We got statism. We got government. Why don't you come work in the government? Government will take care of you. You don't need to have responsibility for yourself. The nanny state will take care of you if you're a Democrat and you need that motherly, tender care, all your benefits. Or, oh, you don't have a father? We got your father type. We'll get you into the Republican system and we'll build a big military for you. How does that sound? You'll always be protected from all the terrorists around the world. It's just there's always one other thing to keep you from taking responsibility for yourself. And no, by the way, when you're in your courtroom, well, you don't know who you are because you're an incompetent. That's why you need a lawyer or an attorney. An attorney at law. Because you're incompetent, and since you don't know who you are, we'll decide for you who you are. State your name, please. You know? It's just this one thing after another, and I've noticed it my whole life, and I wasn't really able to quantify it, and I'm still struggling to quantify it, but I have a really good grasp on it now because I've actually researched so much that I can actually find physical, tangible laws, and I don't even call them laws, you can call them acts, statutes, resolutions, declarations, whatever you want to call them. They're not actual laws. They're all based on presumption and selfishness and violence.
That's how it is gets a ton of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is. And then they start
That's
saying
what my parents did.
Oh, that's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how it is. That's what you do. That's
It's
how
very,
it is. That's what you
very
do.
interesting, but it is. It's such a good consciousness identity disorder because we literally struggle. That's like the age-old question, where do we come from? And people make assumptions and they connect dots that there's no actual physical evidence, but they're broad assumptions and they're not actually real or provable or observable in an empirical sense. It's just kind of like, well, we've found this before, so that must be us, you know? And it's like, the reality is we can't quantify it. And when we try to quantify it, it just is this labyrinth that just keeps going.
And it does almost seem like whenever we talk about this, we talk in circles a little bit, you know? But that's exactly what the law system is too. It's just a big circle, you know. It just chasing itself.
All you got to do is watch, you know, one of these people get put up on the stand or have to testify in front of Congress or, you know, the Senate, whatever. And they never answer the question. They actually just spin it in circles
so I was
waste
watching
time.
This interview the other day with a lawyer from Minnesota. I believe it's Minnesota. Maybe Wisconsin. Yeah, it's Wisconsin. He's saying one of the most racist places in the world is Madison, Wisconsin. Like the rate at which they prosecute black people versus white people for the same exact crime is nuts, and how they get them in a system. And yeah, of course I knew all that, but the more you hear about it, the more it's definitely a slavery setup. It's like they caught you. It's instead of going to Africa to hunt people, it's like we let them come to us by running a stoplight.
Yeah.
Oh, now we got you.
We got you.
Now you're on the ship, you know, moving towards your new home.
And furthermore, with all this digital age where there's all these electronic paper trails or whatever you want to,
and
not
it's
paper,
like,
but
you know,
they can get you on like 1,000 different things in your life if they want to. So you'd better keep your mouth shut.
Which they do want
Yeah.
to, and that is their agenda to do that. You know, that's.
But
that's
they would
how
rather
it is.
you.
That's what we do.
You're collateral for their debt system, so they would rather you stay productive and keep buying things or purchasing,
Right.
discharging debt for things, because you can't actually pay stuff off because your money is debt. It's promissory notes. So you can't actually ever own anything. That's why you have to register
so
your
it's
property.
Kind of like you're doing double duty.
Get licensed
you have
to
to
be
work
this.
outside and you have to work inside. You know, you have to work doing their programs, pay them, and you also have to work on the outside for.
And you all do it because you don't know who you are. You have consciousness identity disorder, and that's why I like that, because it really is. If people understood the system and how simple it is, even though it's all convoluted, they'd be like, oh, what? That doesn't make any sense. You mean that money already exists and my debts are already paid and they're double dipping? That's why they never send me bills. They send me statements and they trick me to paying because I voluntarily do it because I'm incompetent and I don't know who I am. And, you know, when people walk away from the system, they have all these different laws, and it's like this mechanism to get those people. So if you make one mistake in your efforts to get out of the system, they'll find something to get you on. Whereas like that guy, this guy named Rod, I think his last name's Class. They got him on, the only thing they got him on, he was getting out of the system, was the War Act of 1917. They had to go so far back on the books of their weird ass statutes and, you know, laws that they make up. They had to go back a century just to find something to get him on. What?
What was this law? Do you remember what it was?
I don't remember, but it's basically all this stuff where, like, you know, you're a belligerent.
That's where I'm
Under
starting
their
at.
laws, if you go against them, it's kind of like if you're against us, you're a terrorist. Because we say you are. Not because you're a moral, sovereign person that's like, I don't want to participate in this immoral system.
It's kind of like how
Like,
they
oh, you're against us because
created
we're a military power and
disease
now you're
for
fighting
you,
us.
or disorder for you
Yeah.
if you're normal.
Yeah, so you don't like sitting in a classroom in a box.
That's ADD.
You have ADHD and your kid's a fuck up and he needs to be, you know, or she needs to be drugged up
For sure, yeah.
because she doesn't know how to sit still
For life.
and accept her slavery.
Yeah.
She doesn't like the mind control institution, so she's a belligerent, and we need to take care of her. And that's what they do. And everybody just kind of is like, oh, well, I got to go play Pokemon. That's an interesting conversation. I got to go catch some digital, fictional characters on my Pokemon Go and walk off a cliff somewhere, you know? It's like, we got this just, it's interesting to sit back and watch. It really is when you kind of remove yourself from the situation. But it's really sad because it affects all of us. And that's where it gets really dangerous, because it's not like you can just watch a bunch of people make idiots of
and plus,
themselves.
I think that's where a lot
It's
of
their
these
actions
people,
affect you now. And it's like, okay, well, this isn't funny
I
anymore
think
because you
that's
guys
where
are
a lot
Walking
of
Dead.
people, like some crazy religions have their excuse for violence against you. You know,
You gotta convert them.
your crazy lifestyle has an effect on me, so therefore I can shoot you. I can end your life or something like that, which is
Well, it's not even that. It's, I don't like what you're doing. So let me
Right.
write a law that stops you from doing something that I don't like.
well, yeah, that's kind of what we do
Or a statute or a
here.
resolution.
I think they're tricked into thinking that, you know, I don't know, I could be just making all this up, but it seems like some other, like Quran or something has some pretty violent sayings that people go by, just like, you know.
They all do. The Bible, they all have stuff that, you know, was injected. You know, it's all man-made, so
Which, yeah, we were
even
talking
if
about
it's
these
coming
books
from the
earlier,
best place,
and
even if it's
yeah,
coming
I
from the
do
best
think
place,
a
it's
lot
still
of
man-made
these are
instrument.
great stories, and they do provide keys to insights to who we are. But I think, for the most part, they've been so manipulated. Especially, I mean, the Bible for sure.
Or stuff's cut out, and, you know, the reality is, the modern day, there's been so many different interpretations and translations, and it's just, again, it's all
and that
it's all
book has
physical
so much
entities.
carnage around it. You know, I mean,
Yeah, well, that's, I mean, there are truths in them, otherwise nobody would
which
say them.
makes
But
it more
by their fruit
valuable
you shall
to
know
some
them.
people.
By their fruit you shall know them. So if all you've seen is death and destruction, that's what a court is. You're going in there to confess your sins. How do you plead? That's what it is. It's the Inquisition. The Inquisition never ended. They just changed it into a different...
Yeah,
form.
it is funny how we think of these things as so far removed from us.
And who wrote, you know...
But we're living through the same exact things right now. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're going to look back at us and go, those people were nuts. I'm so glad we live now instead of then.
When you look at the historical documents, whether you give a shit about the Founding Fathers or not, when they list their grievances against the King of England as to why the United Colonists or colonies of North America took up arms, in the declaration to take up arms, they listed very specifically ancient admiralty and vice admiralty laws stretching beyond their means, you know, being enslaved by vice admiralty and admiralty laws. What's admiralty law? It's Roman law. It's maritime law. It's the law of the sea, the law of commerce, of money. And that's what our system is now. Our courts are all kangaroo courts. We used to have common law, which I'm not even going to make an excuse for that. I'm not saying that we should go have any laws. But now you have a commercial code, uniform commercial code, which is why you have law enforcement agents. They're operating under UCC, not common law. You have a trial with jury, not a trial by jury. You have all this stuff. It's a game. It's all about them making money. And if we can't see that, I mean, you can't get out of it. You can't change it.
If you think that's just how it is and that's just what you do.
Yeah, and you still see these politicians. We're one nation under God. We are Constitution. You don't have a Constitution, fool. Your Constitution was changed from the Constitution for the United States of America to the Constitution of all caps locks in 1871. It was turned to a corporate document. Your country, your federal government was dissolved in 1933. You know, you've lived in one giant Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing. This whole time, you were made a collateral to a public trust, the debt, because this country was bankrupt, which is what the Emergency Banking Act of 1933 was. And it gave everything to the Federal Reserve and the private entities that own that, and it goes all the way back to the Crown in the City of London, which is a corporation owned by who? The Vatican. This stuff is so old, but when you look at what started like revolutions and all that stuff, they were rebelling against this stuff. And then they passed the Alien Registration Act of 1940, which literally makes speaking out against it and trying to organize the overthrow of a government illegal. So you can't even do that legally. If they want to get you, you think you have free speech. If you talk about overthrowing a government, whether it's through paper documents, whatever, they technically have you on those counts where they can get you for that. And that was all through like the McCarthyism and all that stuff.
Probably trying to dissociate from a country is they can interpret that as trying to overthrow.
What's interesting is it all goes back to the solutions we've been giving this whole time is you can't fight these people. That's what they know. You have to walk away. Like I said to you earlier before we started filming, if every single person in America bought 1 ounce of silver, you can go get one for like 20 bucks, they would take all the physical silver off the market. There wouldn't be enough, and it would collapse.
So where do we get this silver, Dylan?
You can get it at a coin shop. You can get it anywhere. But their whole system is based on creating derivatives and print fractional reserve money. They're passing around all this debt that's not backed by anything. And if you leave them with the worthless debt, that's what they have. And if you take all the physical wealth away from the system will collapse. But nobody wants to do that. They want to keep discharging debt. That's what they're doing. They're not paying anything off. They're not paying a debt. They're discharging. Oh, I'm giving you my debt for your tangible assets. You know, you want to sell me your shoes? Cool. Here's some worthless debt. And that's your burden until you get rid of it. And it's just this whole thing. And every time you put your money in their banks, they can create more with fractional reserve lending because it's legal to do that. And then if they go under, you don't get recompensated because the law is you should have known better before you gave them your money.
Yeah,
you should have known they were making high-risk gambles, that they're money junkies.
You should have.
You know, and I agree with them. That's the thing. Is like I don't actually disagree. It's a perfect system, but it's all based on you not knowing who you are. And if you don't, and that's why we have that. I love that term you made, the consciousness identity disorder. Because if you don't know who you are, you don't know that you're a sovereign. And sovereign inhabitants don't pay or buy things because that's in the law of commerce. They convert things. They convert gold and silver for land. They convert gold and they travel with their property. They don't have driver's license. They don't drive. They don't need to be licensed. They don't, you know what I mean? Like when a law enforcement agent stops you to give you a ticket, that's commercial code. He has zero authority to give that to you, but because you don't know who you are, and because they're so willing to, they don't know who they are, they're so willing to use violence on you. I saw this guy the other day sitting there with an autistic kid who's playing with a toy truck. He's got his arms up and he's like, "Don't shoot, officer." The guy shoots him in the leg. And he's like, "Why did you shoot me?" And the officer goes, "I don't know." But, you know, that could all be a psyop too. You know, fuck, it could be another false flag, you know, bullshit to stir everybody's emotion up. But it's just this out of control. Nobody really knows why they're doing anything. Like, well, it's the law. I'm following orders. Well, I didn't write the bill. I just passed it.
Blind
you know?
obedience.
Pass the buck. The young buck. What's a buck? It's a male deer. Pass the bill. Pay your bills. It's a priest of Baal. That's what a judge is. That's the court system. They're serving Baal. That's why you pay Baal. Bel. The Phoenicians called him Bel. That's their god. That's the sun. That's what they came. Then they went to Venice, became the Venetians, and changed the whole Baal concept to the Jesus concept. Who is Baal the son of? Dagon, the fish god. What does sus in Latin mean? Fish. Jesus, the fish. The Lord fish, because J-E in French, Je suis, you know how it said? That's I. One. The king, the Lord, the monarch. And you can just break all this language down, and it's very trippy, but it's a creepy system. And all we have to do is just say...
That's why people go nuts sometimes when they're on acid, and they just start to realize this for the first time.
I know.
And like start spinning. They're like, holy shit, because their brain hasn't been lined up properly.
Yep.
Or, you know, you haven't wiped away the roadblocks, you know, enough to see. And that's what that stuff, you know, temporarily does. Wipes away all that stuff so you can kind of like peer through yourself, peer through your own walls that you put up.
But it's so beautiful when you can see it, because then you start thinking,
yeah,
you know
that's
what?
the thing is, like, you know, all these things, I've heard them before a lot, but then like years and years, it's kind of like I used to be a math student, and it's like I would go to math class every day and I would hear it and be like, nod my head like I pretended I knew what was going on, but I would be like, okay, I'll figure this out later.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of going along with it right now because I don't really understand what the fuck you're talking about.
I can understand how to do sine and cosine,
Yeah.
but I can't
But
apply
then-
that to the real world.
But then it's like, you know, so it's like I've heard these words said for years and years and years,
Mhm.
but then one time, you know, I got it and I could finally see it, and it's like, whoa, holy shit.
And it's beautiful. This is
And-
my favorite thing about
And
it.
so it does make sense when you finally get it, and then you can kind of put everything else together, and then it seems so obvious, and then it's frustrating that nobody else can see it, and you kind of want to tell everyone right away, but then you try to, and it's like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about?
But here's the beauty: is the more people get this, the more we will see how silly it is.
Yeah, and then
You go,
plus the more
"Oh
we
my
don't have
God,
to explain it.
You're not my enemy, you're my friend. We're just playing these roles in the system
Yeah.
that doesn't really serve us.
Yeah, we've been.
It might temporarily serve us in the system. Like, you might be able to experience comfort by being a judge or being a cop. You might be able to create
I've
an
been
environment
tricked into thinking
that keeps
you
you
don't
safe
like
in this
me, and I don't
paradigm.
Like you, you know.
But
I
what
like
if we
you,
could say,
but-
hey, we don't even need this. Let's get a better paradigm, and then everybody's included, even the fucking bad people, because they're not all bad. Nobody's all bad or all good. It's just everybody's playing this part. They're gaming the system. They're like, well, this is the system. I can't do anything about it, so I'm just going to get mine. And we can still get ours by creating a system of abundance, and then we don't have to fight anybody for it, because, like, you know what? I understand you. We don't see eye to eye on certain things, but guess what? We can
I think
still
if we could
trade. We can still
If
work
we could
together
get the
for certain
people
things.
who didn't know they had a choice to make a choice, I
Mhm.
think this thing would be a lot easier. But some people don't even know that they have a choice, so they just keep doing what they're doing, and they don't know that they're making a choice, and it's the wrong one.
Or they're
more
too
than
deep
likely.
in it, and then it's like the people who that they did these
Right.
promises for. Like, if you go back, we have so much dirt on you that will
It's
discredit
like there's
you.
so
you
many
know,
paths
or if you're
that lead to down towards darkness, or
Mhm.
you know, I don't want to say wrong because maybe they're your right path. Maybe one
I think you
person
can
is
say.
supposed to be
I think
evil,
you can
so
say wrong though, because if it involves harming someone else, it is wrong. If it doesn't involve harming someone else, then it's not wrong. But I think you don't need to be. You don't need to tiptoe around that if it is harming, causing harm. And it's
definitely
just,
a destructive path
yeah.
at the time, anyway. Even though, you know, of course, some destruction leads to, you know, better building in the long run. But
The reality is this: no matter what you think about the self, if you're not sure who you are or what your freedoms are, freedom, like truth, is absolute. And a lot of people have trouble rectifying this. This is why Satanists trick you into believing truth is relative. Because if there's no truth, then, like you said, there is no such thing as a right or wrong, and thus you get to decide what's right and wrong based on your whims. and it doesn't work that way. Truth is absolute, and so under that umbrella, evil is merely undeveloped good, and it can be reconciled with good under that absolute truth, because we did all come from the same, whatever that spark is, whatever that creative process in life. You want to call it God and personify it, you want to call it the Big Bang, nature, anything works. You don't have to fight over the nature of it, but just understand that we didn't create this world. We're in it. We didn't make the laws here, though. Something else made the laws, whether that's a non-intelligent random process or whether it was a very creative process.
Something important to realize too is there are laws that are in effect.
Look, this drops. I don't need to know what causes this, whether it's a spinning ball, whether it's density. I just know that this drops, and I know that if I don't catch this, it's going to smash on the ground because it's glass. So I need to adhere to that if I want this to stay intact. Now, if I want to break this and make sea glass or something cool out of it, then yeah, I can use that law to benefit me, to help me break the glass, right? So I don't have to break it with my hands and cut myself. It's just like this beautiful symbiotic relationship that if we understand nature, we can work with it and ourselves. But if we just stay in this man-made fucking...
ignore it, and hopefully you don't walk off a cliff. But, you know, if you do walk off a cliff, you will fall and die.
Yeah. Or you'll, if you're lucky and you survive, it'll be a very strong lesson that'll stay with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Don't chase Pokemans off and you know, man. It's an electronic man. E-man. Like e-books. Like e-anything. E-man and poke. You know?
Poke the electronic man.
Yep. Poke the electronic man. And that's what they're doing. They're chasing little fictional digital creatures off cliffs. But in any event, it is all beautiful once you can see it for what it is. Thing is how can you help make others see it without...
I mean, I've always kind of felt like I've been playing a real-life version of Pokemon. You know, it's like one of the reasons I run is because I feel like, you know, I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. It's like, you know, there's that gold ring or something that you collect along the way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know I mentioned it to you at a time.
Like Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. So it's like all these runs I do, it's like, you know, 4.5 miles away from my house, there's a benefit for me. I just have to go get it and then come back and it's there, you know what I mean? So it's like I've been going out to get these things, you know, but I know there are other bonuses along the way that I'll pick up, other rewards, and so that's kind of why I do it, because I'm collecting all of those things and, you know, lots of other benefits too.
But that's a great way. That's probably why the game's so successful, is because it corresponds to reality.
Yeah, it taps into the natural thing of why you should be doing things, or, you know, I guess that's not why you should. Why, you know, probably why we would be is because we lived in nature, and, you know, to get around or to survey the area or to see what's going on, you're gonna need to get up and run around in the morning. You know, to catch something, you're gonna have to run 100 miles. You know, in order to get it tired.
And the reality is nobody has a right to take the fruits of your labor. Nobody has a right to fine you. The reason they can do that is because on their system, they're fining a legal fiction. That's why you have a birth certificate, because they created as collateral for the debt, birth registrations. And so they're fining the legal fiction entity. They're billing the legal fiction entity. You know, but that's not you. They're tricking. They titled it to like your phonetically your name. The Phoenicians, the phony ass Phoenicians, they titled it to your name. So when they say it out loud, phonetically, that's what you're like. Oh, that is me. But when you look at your birth certificate, it's signed by a registrar, which is a recorder, a clerk, and and you have a certificate of title, not the title. Just like they hold the property, they hold all the real. Everything. They've claimed it. They've claimed it with black magic on your souls, and it all goes back to the Vatican.
This is all ours.
Yeah, and people think you know, Islam's separate from the Vatican. It's not. Islam got all its power from the Vatican to take Jerusalem back. You know, and that's why there's a lot of violence, because Islam was funded to be violent by the Vatican to kill all the real Christians and the Jews and leave the Augustinians and the Catholics, the Roman Catholics, alone on the way to Jerusalem. because the Knights Templar took it from, they stopped working for the Vatican and developed their own banking system. We were like, fuck you guys, we don't need you, we're doing all the work, we don't need you. And it's just one group of children,
You know, actually, this reminds
greedy
me of
people just keep fighting over the same shit
one
all
time
the
I
time instead of
actually
sharing.
gave someone 49% of the universe. I'm just now remembering this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You gave someone 49%?
Yeah, maybe in retrospect.
Well,
it
did I
was-
own a percentage that wasn't in that, so I have my own percentage?
No, I've got 51%. I claimed it all already. That was,
shit.
this was years and years ago. I'm just now remembering this. So
Is this like in a
It's-
prior
it's
existence,
legit.
or is
It's
this
legit.
during
This is
your
this
physical?
lifetime.
Oh, it is this lifetime.
yeah,
Interesting. Well,
yeah. Because I wanted to keep the voting.
I would say because
Majority.
I don't remember when I was born. I'm so old. I don't recall. I don't remember being
Yeah, I
named.
don't know
It's
if you were
all
there.
hearsay.
Yeah, I don't.
So what I'm telling you is that I've been here much longer than that. So your claims are illegitimate upon me because
Ah.
I've been here forever, and anything else is just hearsay. My driver's license, that's a computer document. I didn't make it. It's all hearsay. How do you know that's not manipulated? And this is how the game works. It's all based on presumption, and that's the beauty of it. Once you can say fuck your presumptions, it's not binding to anybody. You're a little kid. You're a little greedy kid who thinks he has a right to govern others, and you don't.
Yeah, it is kind of like a kid's
You
game that got
spiritual
carried
peasant.
away.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a game
It's
that got
like,
carried away, and now nobody knows what to do because like the game is so serious. If you try to stop the game, they kill you.
Like, kids, what you do today? Oh, I claimed all of the land.
The sandbox is mine, mommy.
I claimed it.
I just beat those others. I called them I put liens on them, and called them aliens.
I bound them in
Yeah.
paperwork.
Oh, mommy, you should have seen that. I beat his ass off that slide. Now it's mine.
I talked to this other guy. And,
And that's the law. If you conquer it, you gained it by conquest. You get to rewrite the laws. Now you're God. It's just so silly, and it's amazing that people can't step back from that and go, "Wow, it is all based on imagination."
Well, because no one ever thinks that big. We all think
Yeah.
so small.
I guess when you're just so caught up in trying to survive, you don't really have.
And with so many things being thrown at you all the time.
And it's
Not
like
to mention-
it's like this thing that keeps feeding itself.
And that's
because
the things that you need. And then there's all the distractions of things you don't need. And then their own distractions.
Yeah. But it's like the people who game the system, who run it, they have all the time in the world to get together with each other,
And
plot,
the thing is,
think about
we're
it,
so
while everyone else is like, I gotta pay rent.
physically and mentally, we can take all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we do take it.
Yeah.
You know.
You get what you put up with, and
Yeah.
that's one thing. It's a testament
Since
to
we
how strong a
can,
human man
and
is.
then we get convinced, or convinced or deceived into thinking, oh, you're just being weak, buck up, take it, be strong.
My dad
strong,
worked,
carry it.
and
Yeah.
it's really, it's all fake. It's as fake as Hollywood. It requires our consent and our belief. And we have a choice, and that's what makes us morally culpable for it, is because we do have a choice and how much we participate. I understand you can't just get out of it because there's so much violence in place to come after you if you try to, or if you do successfully get out of it, you better be wealthy. You better have enough means to exist out of the system, because once you're out, it's like being out of the house. You get out of your parents' house, okay, you're cut off. Now that doesn't mean you can't find a way to like get something from your brothers and sisters and survive off of their graces, but you have to be self-sufficient before you can get out. And even then, it's like
people in this world are self-sufficient?
very few. There are some,
mean,
but it's like you better have some serious
Some
FU money.
out of billions.
Yeah, you better have some serious tangible wealth that's not in the paper assets in the digital ether, and you better have the means and the network of people who will still deal with you, because anytime you use payments, you're operating in commerce again. That's why you can't own your property, because you didn't buy it. You paid for it with debt. you discharge debt to acquire it. So you're a temporary, occupant, but they can, if the moment you stop paying your taxes, they can kick your ass out and say, we're taking this back. We're repossessing Re, Eye of Re, Sun God, Re. We're re-taking your property in this reality. If you don't like it, we'll kill your ass and you can be reincarnated somewhere else. It just goes over. It's just a very deep spiritual, this place is a very spiritual construct. And if you actually get through all the bullshit, you can start to see the spiritual games that are being played. And then it becomes really serious. And you're like, oh shit, this isn't just survive in my 9 to 5 and get by, have kids, marry, whatever, move, buy a house and then die. There's actually serious implications for my behavior. And my immortality is at stake because I can willfully desire myself and cut myself off from God or the
that's
source.
That's a tough bridge to cross as well, because a lot of people see that. I mean, honestly, I've been through it, and so when you do see it, you can, before you go through it all, you could say,
this happens to be an apple bitten lying on the ground, a fall.
You could say, what the fuck was I just talking about?
Probably something epic about like my sexy thighs or like my amazingly masculine biceps.
I just lost it all with that apple. But anyway, something very important.
We were talking about the spiritual construct of this, and I was talking about how you can really, you can actually willfully desire yourself, cut yourself off from God or the source, and that's when you started chiming in. So I think you're talking about
whatever. It was great. But you just had a perfect example of my life. Had a great idea, didn't write it down. Now it's gone, but it's in me.
But it wasn't yours. It was,
no,
you were
it
connecting.
wasn't.
You're a medium.
Yeah,
and that's why you don't harness this stuff, because you're actually using your intuitive, magnetic affinity to channel this stuff. People don't realize that, but if you really talk to good musicians and stuff, a lot of them tell you, yeah, it's all coming from the same source. Like, it's not mine. It's just, I'm just tapping into the source. That's how.
Yeah, it's just like you're watching the show and just kind of like taking notes, kind of.
And that's ultimately who we are. We're channeling this experience. Like, we are in this world. We're obviously not of it because we didn't
I know what I was going to say. Oh,
get in there. Get in there.
Okay, so, it's like when you start to break through and start to see all this right from wrong and start to see decisions and consequences and know what real truth is, you can close up so quick and turn your back on it because it is a frightening thing and there is a lot of work involved in going through it, and there is a lot of suffering that you have to go through, and the realizations of kind of like you have to forgive yourself for every mistake that you've made in your life. And believe me, I haven't made a lot of mistakes, but they were big to me, and I feel like I've lived a pretty good life. So if someone who hasn't lived near as nice a life as I have, I couldn't even imagine the stuff that they're going to have to forgive themselves for, and the realizations and remembering of the horrible things that they have done, in their college age years, when they were children, when they were trying to become young adults, when they were drinking too much, when they were whatever, hyped up on this, whenever they thought they were this, they let their friends talk them into that.
And really quick, the only reason people can't deal with it is it's not because they can't deal with the truth, it's because they have an out of control ego.
Yeah.
That can't be wrong.
Yeah.
That can't ever say I was wrong. That can't ever say I've done wrong. And that ego, it's like the id. C-I-D. Like we talked about. See the id. C-I, and
Yeah, and you definitely have to be able
D is to remove.
detach from that, and
see the reversal, see the removal.
Yes, and
see how you
see how you can, how it is there for you to learn from, and how strong it will make you to go through that. But then after you go through that, you still have to, then you have to change, which is, you all know how hard change is. I mean, anyone who's tried to quit anything, cigarettes are the most typical thing, but quit watching TV, quit spending money, quit having a $5 coffee every day.
Quit eating meat.
Quit.
Oh, that was the hardest for me.
Anything that you have to quit is going to be insanely difficult, and then to be able to quit that and to have quit that forever, I mean, it's a challenging thing.
But what I think people need to do is, if once they kill their ego, they understand there is serious redemption in just your effort of trying.
Yeah.
Because if you're trying, you're actually taking action and you are doing. You're not failing if you don't if you don't get what you want, or you don't get your achieved goal, your desired goal. You're not failing. You still got experience. You're still making the effort, and that's what's really important. Is like, you don't ever have to succeed in quitting or succeed. Just the fact that you made an attempt, that you actually put it in motion to make an honest effort, and you're honest with yourself. That's going to go a long way, especially in like forgiving yourself, because once you can get rid of all this egotistical bullshit that like imprisons you from being able to say I was wrong, or being able to start over, or being able to try something else, once you kill that ego, you're free.
Yeah, I think one of the big things was me whenever I was...
And in Satanism, real quick, that's what the ego is. It's not devil worship. That's the ego, Satan.
I woke up one morning screaming, "It's me. It was me."
Mm-hmm.
And I literally did wake up screaming that. And, it's like when I realized, oh, all this shit that's been going on, it's me. It's my fault. I did it to myself. Oh, shit, it's me, I was wrong,
I have a really specific to what you're just saying memory of myself, and that's something I have to deal with. Is one time that my friend was crying, and we were probably like 9 years old, and she was crying over something silly, and I wanted to hug her and tell her it was okay, but I didn't, because my dad was in the background and other people are watching me, and it's like I was like, no, I'm from like I got to be a tough guy. I just was so, going back to what we were talking, we're so afraid to be ourselves, to be vulnerable, because I was like, I don't want to be made fun of. I don't want people thinking I'm a pussy because I'm hugging a girl who's crying and letting her cry, you know what I mean, and like telling her she's gonna be okay, and stuff. And it was just something silly. It wasn't like she was crying because she was hurt or anything like that. And then when I look back at it, she unfortunately died a couple years later. And so I'm never gonna get that moment to ever that's just one of those moments that just stuck in my mind, where it's like, it was me. I chose. Doesn't matter what how people made me feel and how I was being suppressed at home.
It was them that made me feel that way.
I chose not to make myself vulnerable and take care of a human being who is in need, who is obviously going through emotion. Because I was judging myself, because my out of control ego was possessing my satanic little fucking body, and I wasn't acting like a true sovereign who didn't give a shit about all these immoral assholes and what they think of me. And I regret that. And it's just amazing when you can just say, fuck everybody. Fuck all of you. None of you have anything to do with me and my behavior. I'm responsible for myself. I choose not to harm others. I choose to be free.
And actually, that's a big moment.
Yeah.
I used to watch this Kevin Pollak chat show that had these 3-hour interviews with all these, I don't know, comedians, movie stars, whatever, successful people in that aspect, I guess. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that a lot of them had in common, he'd get to the root of what made them what they are. A lot of them had this fuck it moment where they're like, gone to the audition, got beat up here, got robbed here, whatever. And then they're just like, fuck it at this audition, and they just kind of became this superstar because they said fuck it. Yeah. And I think a lot of us,
we're caring about what somebody thinks about us, and they're deplorable. They hate themselves, these people that are judging us.
I'm tired of being this banker bullshit, you know, fuck it. You know,
Mhm.
I'm gonna do what I want to do. I'm gonna live my life however the fuck I envision it. Even though no one's ever done this before, I see it and I see it could be done.
And it will be, we're in a situation
and you
where
probably
because
will be
the
able to
system,
create it.
everybody's so dependent on the system, it is going to be very uncomfortable at first. You know, until you learn how to live within your means and not take out debt, it is very uncomfortable. But the more of us that start to do that and then create, you don't have to change the system. We just have to create a new system of abundance. And the more you can attract those people, well, then those people who are like benefiting off the immoral banking system, they're gonna say, well, I want to be in that system where everybody's happy and they love each other and I can be me and I don't have to sacrifice what's best about me for these
now
guys.
it's like they've
Shit.
made the, you know, mass general population so unhappy to fit with them. But when they see the general, like the Grinch that stole Christmas, whenever he sees all the people singing anyway, it's like, well, maybe I can just go hang out with them or whatever.
Yeah, and then
and
and they say,
and
yeah,
then-
you can come hang out with
and
us.
then
You don't have
his
to be up
heart
there in your high
grows
tower.
or whatever, you know.
Exactly.
And then
You
they're
can
like,
come hang
well,
out.
maybe I can go hang out with people for a while.
And you can still, if you want to live on your high tower up there, isolated, go for it. But you can also come and be a part of us and learn that, you know, people will love you for who you are. Some people will hate you for who you are, and that's okay as long as they don't hurt you. And it's just this, I don't know, it's just very interesting once you, and that's actually what I'm in a transition of my life, is I'm in that really like, I'm almost there. I'm not quite there, but I'm having a lot of fuck you moments to everybody in terms of
Yeah,
like,
you are branching out and doing, you know, what
just
you feel
don't care.
compelled to
Oh,
do.
what, you're gonna kill me for speaking the truth? So fucking be it. I don't care at this point. Me serving truth and helping people
Yeah, and a
is
lot
more
of-
important than
a
you
lot of my
threatening me,
breakthrough
because I know it ain't gonna be you that
was-
comes for me.
My fuck it moment
Be
was,
some fucking loser
fuck
with an
it, I'm
IQ of 95.
I'm not going to be scared to grow
I'll
weed.
take care of them.
I'm not going to be scared and grow weed in my closet, you
Mhm.
know, where it's impossible to grow. I'm, you know, fuck it, this is legal. I'm going to pull it out into my room and, you know, set up a system, and, you know, have it there where I used to be afraid if my landlord came in, he would see it and whatever. But then I was like, fuck it. Okay, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to put an AC in there and put a couple tents.
Some
I'm
people
gonna
like
have a
little
plumbing system.
dogs, papillions or whatever
Yeah.
they're called. Some people like plants. Some people like,
Yeah.
there's all things that grow, and it's all, we are the
It's like-
custodians.
You kind of
We're the
get talked into
custodians of this
being
place.
embarrassed of who you are,
Mhm.
you know.
And that's the root of it. That's why it is like this unseen force, though, going back to it. It's like, where does it come from?
But
Because you
then
can't
also,
blame it on
too,
everybody
It's
else.
like that you do realize, oh, I've constricted myself
Mhm.
in that box. Oh, I put myself there. I can say it's them, but oh, all I had to do was open my eyes.
Yeah.
Oh, and that kind of I kind of fell asleep during this movie, but isn't that the guys who made The Matrix? They made the one after that
Yeah.
with Natalie Portman, and like she ended up in a jail cell, and like the jail cell was like open the whole time, and all she had to do was walk out or something like that.
Yeah, it was V for Vendetta.
Yeah, V for Vendetta.
Yeah.
Wasn't that kind of the thing? It's like,
Yeah, it
Oh,
was all fake. The guard
you
was
were-
a
you
dummy.
were free
She
the
didn't
whole
realize
time.
that the guard. Yeah.
and you were just staying here. You know, it was me the whole time. And then it goes back to, oh, it's me.
But that's
you
a
know?
beautiful allegory of that. Is
We
the
imprison
prison
ourselves.
is self-imposed
We let
by violating
ourselves
nature.
Get talked into the prison, and then we build it ourselves. It's kind of like we're the Mexicans, and Donald Trump talked us into building a wall around ourselves or something like
Yeah.
that.
We
It's
are
like
the aliens.
He's talked us into building a wall around, and we pay for it.
In the Banking
We
Relief,
buy it.
the Banking Relief Act of 1933, in that they amended the Trading with the Enemy Act from 1917, which literally included all Americans as the enemy. They just changed the subtle wording, but you can now, we're all, it used to be non-American citizens, but now they changed it to like
Oh,
everybody
yeah.
within it. So it's like you just said, if you let them build that wall, that's your open air prison coming into full manifestation. No matter how seemingly good the intent is, it's not, because it's all based on fear, which is, I don't want to hear you talking about building a wall if you're not talking about 9/11 being an orchestrated false flag terror, if you're not talking about Nice being a false flag terror operation, if you're not talking about Munich, Germany being a false flag operation, if you're not talking about San Bernardino, if you're not talking about Pulse nightclub, where that fool Angel Cologne says he got shot in the hand and they say it on the media, and then you see him talking in an interview, he's got no bullet holes in his hand, no wounds. If you're not willing to address all the charade that's going on, I don't want to hear your solutions about building walls. I don't want to hear your solutions about stealing freedom, gun control.
Yeah,
I want you to address the fraud. And that's it. If you're not going to address the fraud, you sit down and you shut the fuck up. That's how I feel right now. Got tired of people stealing freedom for their fucking erroneous fears. I'm over it.
Yeah, I think the Tesla free energy thing is
free energy.
I mean,
we need
one
it.
of the biggest things.
We have it. It's existed. We don't need to pay for any of this shit. We can just create abundance.
Yeah,
and the people who do the work for creating the system, let's help them.
For that, for energy, you know, then that's just, you know, and they do this by percentages, you know. Get you $1 a day here, $1 a day there, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But, you know, freedom will reign, whether we annihilate ourselves or whether we align with it. There's only one absolute truth, and we are free. That is the absolute truth. There's nothing, there's no laws for us. The laws are nature. That's what created us. That is what, you know, that's what we're bound by. We're not bound by the whims of man. That's just violence. And we can totally transcend that if we just stop being violent. And I've actually got nothing but, I feel really good about, I understand how dark everything's getting and how it's all hyper, like, escalating because the system's, like, collapsing, and so they're trying to, like...
I don't think it's getting, I think it's actually getting brighter.
Yeah, I think...
And that's why it looks so dark, because you're shining light on things now that used to be in the dark.
It's like you have an itch on your calf or something, you're like, what is that? And then you see it's like a brown recluse spider bite and your calf's rotting. You're like, oh shit, I gotta get that taken care of.
Yeah, so then, but then you get it taken care of, you know, instead of your foot just falling off.
Yep.
Oh, your battery's low, dude.
Well, it's not off though, so it's still going. And
but yeah, you know what you're saying. I think it has been dark for thousands of years. But I think it is getting brighter.
Because we've been underwater.
Yeah.
Admiralty. We've been under Admiralty law.
Well, I think it's about time to at least.
And now we're going into Aquarius. What's in the air, baby? That's Aquarius, the water bearer. We're going to put that water in a pitcher. And now we'll be in the air, and things can thrive and move, and you can see in the air. It's not murky.
Except for the fire.
Yeah, except for the fire that's burning down the whole valley. Look at how fucking dark that is, dude. I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm just gonna see if I'm gonna take this around a little bit, see if you can.
It's really changed since we started.
Yeah, nice and clear over there,
and
downtown
look at the
LA.
sun.
Holy shit! Planet X or Nibiru up there. But anyways, I think we had a wonderful episode. Whether anyone sees it or not, thank you. I think this is one of our better talks. I enjoyed it. And for everyone else who sees this in the replay value, we send you nothing but love. You're free, and no matter where you come from in life, you exist as our brothers and sisters around the world. And as long as you're willing to work with us, we're willing to work with you. We do not seek war with anybody. We seek honest friendship, trade, abundance, wholeness with everybody. We're all in the same place, so we need to get over all these differences and actually celebrate the differences and the diversity of nature. And then as we do that, we'll put an end to this weird, perversive or pervasive energy that suppresses us from feeling like we have the permission to be ourselves, you know. And once everybody's flying their freak flags, man, imagine how, you know, it's like little kids. They don't care who's watching them when they're dancing and being silly. And when everybody's like that, oh man, that's just going to be the glass ceilings off. Everything's off. There's just infinite abundance. But we'll leave it at that and have an awesome rest of your day.